It's a year where costuming will be king, but the chorus will be playing more recognizable music than ever before. As the summer of 2019 approaches, DCI Artistic Director Lee Carlson is going to pull back the curtain a little bit on show design and give us a glimpse of what's coming to the field for this year's Drum Corps International Tour. Well, we're now just days away from the start of the 2019 Drum Corps International Tour, and my guest is DCI Artistic Director Lee Carlson. Hi, Lee.
Hi, Dan. How are you?
We're going to have a very short video discussion here, but I want to direct you to the Field Pass podcast that's also been posted. It will have detailed information about as many of the world-class shows as we can possibly squeeze in. But we're going to get a brief overview right now with Lee. So, Lee, this season is shaping up to be phenomenal. I've been looking over the source music and the show concepts, but notably, there are at least 4 of last year's top 12 corps that still have not publicized their shows. Can you tell me, as artistic director, is there any competitive or entertainment advantage to be gained from waiting until the very last possible moment to announce your show?
I don't understand why there would be. I've been able to talk to all of them, and I know what they're doing, but they've muffled me to some point where I really can tell you some very general things about what they're doing. There are a couple of trends going on that I can tell you about overall. And one of them I think is very exciting is there's going to be a lot of music that the people will recognize this year. We'll be able to leave the stadium humming and we'll be very familiar with a lot of what's happening.
I got to love that. To that question, though, why do you think corps, and I'm speaking specifically of Bluecoats in this case, Santa Clara Vanguard, and a couple of others, Cavaliers, that haven't announced their shows yet, why do you think they do that?
I think they're trying to keep the mystery about it and perhaps bring more people into that opening date when they first preview the show. And there's something exciting about the way they're doing it. People are going to walk in and we'll see the Bluecoats come out, and I've had the chance to see their costuming, and it's going to be incredibly exciting. And once they hit the first note, people will know exactly what they're doing. And I think that'll bring a little bit more drama to the evening and a little, perhaps a little bit more excitement.
What about last year's champion, Santa Clara Vanguard?
They're being very secretive even with me. I know a few things, and I can mention just one piece of music, and it's not even a piece of music. It's a group that you're going to be hearing from them. But we'll do that in the podcast.
Okay. Hey, I love the way you tease the Field Pass podcast. That's great. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about those overall trends you're seeing. First, the musicality, the hummability of the tunes that the corps are going to be playing this year.
Anything from Bridge Over Troubled Waters, which you will hear twice, but from 2 completely different ways that they're producing them and the way that they're treating it within their show. So that's kind of exciting actually to see the 2. And the weird thing on that is that happens to come from the only 2 corps that have women program coordinators, and they've both chosen that piece of music. So I find that intriguing and interesting. And again, that's another tease that we can talk about later, but it's interesting. The other thing that's come across from almost everybody is that even they're surprised at the talent level that has come out and the maturity of the auditioning performers and what they've been able to put together. So they've all been very excited, and I've talked to several of them since they've done their move-ins, and they're really excited where they're going and how the whole preseason is progressing.
It's interesting that you should say that because I was watching some 2004 finals yesterday, and there were some very tough musical licks in there, but even to my percussionist ear, I could hear the muddiness in the horn lines, even at the top 3 level in 2004, compared to the kind of clarity we hear in those runs with a million notes in them now.
I think that the majority of the members of the brass and percussion line are music majors at major universities or at any university around the country. And I think that's been one of the big shifts in the last 10 years. That's another trend that I believe is happening.
What about visual trends, Lee? What are you seeing? Are we seeing more large props to be manipulated this year and more costuming as opposed to uniforming?
I don't think anyone has mentioned uniform. Everybody's talked about their costuming, and that's for the corps, the guard, obviously, but the percussion line, the front ensemble, and the way they're approaching it is much more theatrical than the videos you were watching. They're really thinking about what theater is all about and how they can recreate that on a scale that is a football field rather than a Broadway stage.
I think some fans would worry, though, with all the costuming that we start to lose the identities that these corps have built up over the decades. Can you still tell Phantom Regiment, Cavaliers are Cavaliers by their look on the field?
Yes, absolutely. Even though it's a completely different costume, it's still Crown. And cadets will still be cadets. Cavaliers will be Cavaliers. In the podcast, we'll talk a little bit more about the direction they're going with the costuming in the show, which is a total package and should be very exciting. And they're very pleased with the talent level that they have. Danny Wiles was just over the moon about that. So it's going to be exciting.
You know, for so many years, identity was part of Michael Cesario's mantra as artistic director, that he really wanted the corps to solidify their identity and to foster it every year in their programming. Is identity as important as it always has been?
Oh, absolutely. And I think the corps have realized that. Michael really set the foundation for that to happen, and it's continuing through. The ideas that the corps are coming up with now are unique, interesting, and I'll take Blue Knights. Blue Knights shows all the concept of what they are and who they are and how they have built to this point and where they're going. So they're taking their own identity and repeating it. And a couple of the other corps are doing the same thing, in that it's not part 2 from last year, but it's a continuation of who they were, who they are today, and where they may go in the future.
As you look at the corps that finished 13th or lower last year in world class, do you see it shaping up to be another Donnybrook to get into the top 12?
Yeah. I think obviously there's going to be competition on all levels, but 10 to 15 will be dramatic, I'm sure. There's a lot of push from the corps that didn't quite make finals, and they would like to take the spot of those that did. And those that did are really not worrying, but really working hard to maintain their spot in the top 12.
Lee, I know that as we tape this, you're just days away from bringing all the DCI judges together for their annual spring training. There were some rules changes at the January meetings this year. Most notably, the field judges are going to be kind of confined to the perimeters of what's going on the field. It's going to be a little bit different judges training this year, isn't it?
Yeah, we're going to have to look at that and make sure that the judges understand where they can go and where they can't go. They can go up to 6 steps onto the field. They have to now be able to maneuver the front ensembles on any of the set pieces that are up front. So there's a challenge to that. We're going to talk through that a lot. So it's going to be very focused on the different approaches that the percussion, brass field, and field performance will have to take in order to be able to read what they need to read. And Jay Kennedy said it best with the percussion. There were people upset about it, but his comment was, we don't know that this won't make it better. So I think we're going in with the attitude of we're going to do this the best we can and be aware of the safety of the performers and the safety of the judges. And perhaps this will make it even better.
Lee Carlson, before we let you go, we want to put you through a ringer we call the Box 5 Deep Dive. These are 5 questions, kind of a la Inside the Actors Studio, that might help us get to know DCI's artistic director just a little bit better. Are you game to do that?
Sure. Okay.
All right. Here is Box 5 question number 1. What is your favorite drum corps show of all time?
I hope this doesn't get me in trouble, but probably Blue Devils Fellini. I thought it went so far out of the box of drum corps as we knew it at that point, and connected on an emotional level that was pretty incredible. And me coming from the general effects caption, the emotional part that they brought to that show was unlike anything we had seen up to that point. So I hope I don't get in trouble by picturing that out, but that show still haunts me. And,
also the highest scoring show in the history of Drum Corps International, correct?
I believe so. That didn't come to my mind when I said it, though, so that will validate it a little and hope that the other corps don't get angry with me.
Box 5 question number 2. What's the best meal you've ever eaten?
There's a restaurant in a town called Arezzo in Italy, and it's called, in Italian, a lanciador, which is the golden lance. And their meals are a 2-hour production, and from the soup that they bring at the beginning all the way to dessert. I'm a dessert person, obviously, and they have it when you order dessert there, they bring you a pre-dessert, and then they bring you what you've ordered, and then they bring you a post-dessert in case you haven't had enough. And the dish there, believe it or not, would be lasagna, because it wasn't like any lasagna you've ever experienced. It excellent. So that would be probably the best meal.
Since you are a general effect person, as you said, and a show designer, what is your biggest pet peeve when it comes to the design of field shows, be it drum corps or marching band?
I may get in trouble with this one too, personally, but with the University of Southern California, we do one picture show every year. Last year we did The Incredibles, and writing those shows with a car that moves or a horse that walks, those are the shows that I don't like to write, although I like to watch. Ohio State does them really well. But
I was going to say, thanks, Ohio State. Jeez.
Yeah, exactly, because we up until about 7 years ago, we did not do that. So the picture shows are not my favorite to write.
You are a former band director, as you already mentioned. You do the visual design for the USC Trojan Band. So you're, I guess, if we were to put you in a category besides DCI artistic director, you are a pageantry designer. Lee, if you were not a pageantry designer, what would your profession be? What's your dream job that has nothing to do with what you're doing right now?
Well, my dream job is what I do in drum corps and in marching band, but my real dream job is I can be mad at the world, sit down, beat up 20 pounds of clay, and everything's fine. So I do have my dream job I have a studio and a wheel and a kiln, and I can go there, which I am right now, and just come out 4 hours later, much calmer, a much more civil person to be around, perhaps. So that's my dream job, and I have it. So that works for me.
I thought everybody wanted to be a potter.
Well,
just me.
I can understand that.
All right, box 5 question number 5. You're going to start a brand new drum corps all your own, Lee. What are you going to call them?
Wow. I would say Hope, because Hope. And I think we need more of that in the world. I think a visual ensemble that's out on the field giving everybody a little bit more hope could be a good thing.
I like that.
That is a difficult question, and that sounds like a corny answer, but sometimes I'm corny.
All right. Well, corny or not, we're going to go in depth on all of last year's top 12 shows in the Field Pass audio podcast that is accompanying this on the web today. And Lee, thanks for being our guest. Let's go over to the audio side and get in depth on the shows this year. Okay.
Great. Thank you, Dan.
But there is much more to this interview, and you can listen via Field Pass, available on Apple Podcasts and SoundCloud.